Hi. I told you we see your name all the time.
Yeah, we were ahead of schedule. Now we're not.
I will probably be in touch with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, this is back to what?
Yeah. So the concerns that I addressed, and clarified and addressed that we were, if you were concerned with last time, I think that probably the biggest issue here is that we're looking at the pitch, because actually the plans had two different sort of pitches. So once the picture here and now
Do we have the pictures of the current conditions? Sorry
I'm
to interrupt it.
Of the house now?
Yeah, it just makes this easier to remind us. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we started talking about pitches the first time I wanted to see. This is good.
Okay. So, yeah, there's just a shed roof here now. It's a bathroom added on at one point. I guess this was a porch across the back originally. So, we discussed the pitch and wanting consistency with the house. The issue we ran into when I discussed it further with the architect is that we're really getting very high with the windows above it. We did make forming an elevation. It's very simple, but this is where we are now with the windows in that room. They're just about, you know, I'm sorry, with the pitch done as it is here.
Okay.
We're really getting very high on the wall with them, and so it's not possible to increase this pitch without winding up with little.
I'm sorry, this pitch, you mean right here?
No, I'm sorry, this is what we were discussing last time.
Okay.
The pitch and the gable.
And the consistency of that gable right with the main one on the house. So much as I'm open to making those perfectly consistent, the problem is we're driving these windows higher and higher. It's maybe not noticeable so much on the outside, but beyond this, on the inside, just becomes very unappealing in a bedroom.
Are you changing this wall at all, or just the roof?
Just the roof is being added. Right. We have as well, just to refresh, there's actually a cantilever of that same portion, which we have now on. You can see on drawing 2 and lesser on 4, a continuation of the wall, so it appears to merge.
Yeah.
We moved the porch door over a little bit from the house. There should be space between the windows we discussed. However, that's accomplished individual windows, or they can be made that way. The elevation lines, we've made some corrections. I think we didn't really pay attention to that before, the height. So I went back and measured all of that. And one distinction is that on the south side of the house, even beyond where my soil line is, the neighbor has been good enough to increase theirs by about 2.5 feet. So I think that we offered some screening here on a partial portion underneath the porch.
So that's on the neighbor's edge and then in the backyard edge, but where the staircase is, it's going to be open.
Right. I had wanted to leave maybe half of under the porch open because there's a basement laundry there, just to still get light. And
Yeah, it's just hard to tell with lattice what it's attached to.
And
one thing about the lattice is this may just be the way that it was your architect drew it, and sometimes it's representative, but we request that lattice be hung square instead of.
I caught that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just a CAD problem.
Yeah, I think it is.
I saw that in the district requirements though. So in looking around, I see some homes are done with diagonally, some are square, but I know that's what that's what's preferred. Yeah, so we'll do that, or that's what's required.
So, I'm sorry to be a lunkhead, but so this drawing represents the pitch you would like to have
Well,
How are the, because I'm
Right now
not
it's
seeing
flat.
that.
this is a shed,
It's a shed roof.
just
No,
a
no.
shed roof they came off with.
No, I'm sorry, I was pointing to this.
Oh, this represents the same. That is the height of.
Oh, this is
That's
what it
the
would look
elevation
like
from the interior.
from the interior.
Interior.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to be
Okay,
able to
I
visualize that
understand
we
now.
just can't push that peak higher without the windows getting about that tall and up at the ceiling.
I understand now.
I had really wanted, I never visualized even that they would be so high. I had wanted something consistent with, you know, a longer, try to get the outside into
Mhm.
bedroom.
Mhm, mhm.
But, yeah, it seems to be about as small as we can go.
So this is what you're saying this is what you max out at. This
Right.
is what, okay.
Right, the drawings that I showed you the first time actually had two different.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, there was inconsistency, so.
Are they in the file?
This
Yeah.
is what they.
In double checking it, we realized that this is where we would like it to be, though.
That's such an improvement, getting this infill here.
Mm.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I would like to just go out the whole back of the house 20 feet, but, you
Mhm.
know. There's and honestly, it seems that's what everyone's done. My neighbor has the same thing. Everybody just does the reverse gable and goes out 10, 20
Yeah.
feet. And I have a wonderful kitchen, huge dining room, but,
But it wouldn't be quite as clean.
So we don't have enough.
honestly, we don't have the need
We
for
don't have
it.
enough.
Yeah.
You know, there's only two of us.
Yeah.
But we would like a normal bedroom.
Yeah.
You know, the bedroom upstairs right
That's
now
not a bizarre
is-
request.
Yeah, just,
All right,
Yeah.
now, the one thing which, you know, we did talk about last time is that you are in your side setback, and so
Yes.
obviously you're gonna wind up going to the zone.
right, I did I blew up the
Right.
survey for you. Yeah, we are, and it seems they also, part of most of my garden and maybe, I don't know, most of the front of the house is Map Street, which I never really understood before. It seems that Map Street comes right back to the stairs, and I actually have a whole garden and everything in front of it.
This is,
so-
we talk about this a
But-
lot.
But it's Map
Yeah.
Street as opposed to, like, I guess Main Street was done very oddly. This, it seems to just, you know, it's all the way down. And the whole house is set at an angle, which is odd. Everything about it is set slightly at an angle, so
That's
maybe
funny.
there should
Well,
be.
Yeah,
a little-
they have moved the streets.
Yeah, a little turn to it.
So it sounds like what you're asking for is, since you know you need variances, you're
Yeah.
asking for, are you okay with concept?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I need to go to them clearly for what's on the side, you know, the porch and that, so I'd like to be sure you are.
Any comments or questions from other board members?
No, well, are we gonna talk about materials and things like that, or?
We don't have an
or-
application yet, we're just workshopping
Oh,
concept.
okay.
Yeah.
No, so as far as the concept is
I
concerned.
also did, did provide, you talked about the ability to do regular clapboard as opposed to something, not, I guess, flame resistant.
Oh, we talked about
Oh, because
cementitious
of
board
your
because of the
lines.
distance from the neighbor.
Because I'm right there on the driveway. I'm not thrilled with the quality of this, but this is New York State code that requires actually quite a bit. You know, a flame retardant resistant board and another layer of sheetrock, I think. I'm actually kind of sorry we found it at this point.
That's what you asked for.
Well, we had thought that maybe, you know, we could, you know, we're talking about really the only thing new here is sort of this piece. But I may just have to wind up taking
Well,
the whole side of
what's
the
there
house.
right now?
Asbestos board?
Yeah,
Might be
it's
covered
asbestos
already.
shingles.
Asbestos?
Isn't that flame resistant?
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to have some more discussion and wherever we need to go. I'll get you the detail I'm sure you want on the windows, but they're really a very simple, you know, frame with the drip edge on the top and a sill on the bottom.
So cut sheet for the windows
Okay.
from the manufacturer.
Okay.
What are you proposing for windows?
We had discussed.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, I
We
know.
have a
I'm
lot of
just
stuff
saying-
right now.
Really? We had just discussed the 1/1 because that's what's on the whole house.
Mhm.
The only reference I have is
But
that.
I mean, the material.
Oh, I hadn't considered that yet.
So you are,
But because we're in
The national.
the national district, we'll get those guidelines. And that's where we'll be.
so wood, it calls for wood windows.
Closer wood. Okay.
You could, I don't know what the rest of the windows are, but aluminum cladding is
Yeah,
an
see,
option in the national area.
According to this, the walls, if it's less than 5 feet, it needs to be 1 hour rated. If it's more than 5 feet, then there's no rating
We've
required.
got about 3.
Yeah,
They
about
really
3.
built it right. And again, with that angle that the house is built at, there might be 5 in the front. Yeah, we'll have to do a really closer measurement. I
Well,
was-
you're opening up further in the back than you are in the front. But at the back, the
Oh,
only
okay.
dimension that they have there is 3.7.
Right, so that's where we are.
That's off of the lot line or off of
Yeah.
an adjacent building?
Lot line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would think it would be a problem all over the place.
I know, I'm just surprised that this has never come up before.
I know.
That's why I'm questioning, and I think that we need to have input from the building inspector.
That's fine.
I mean, there might be something grandfathered in, because so many of these houses are so.
Yeah, and considering we're doing only a portion of it, maybe there's.
Yeah, that's a
something
question
else.
for him,
Sure.
definitely.
Uh-huh.
Or the,
Well, yeah, the issue is that the codes usually don't allow you to improve a non-conformance.
Right.
or extend a non-conformance.
Increase
And
the
then
area.
improve, it doesn't necessarily say, it doesn't say extend.
But that's what it means, is you can't increase the degree of non-conformity.
No,
Right.
you can't make the non-conformity any better. In other words, if it's non-conforming,
So you can't just
they'll
improve it.
allow you to replace it in kind or maintain it, but you can't,
I think we're saying the same thing different ways.
all right. I think that we're pretty much in agreement as far as what the
Yeah,
implications
I'll check
are.
with the inspector on that and see, the building inspector too. Before I bring that back to you, materials. I know we still have a ways to go, just because of the zoning issue. I wanted
Yeah,
to be
well, so
sure.
you can
Yeah.
go back to them now with telling them that you've workshopped with us and
I've actually not
in
started.
concept.
Yes.
And with that, we'll give these back
Let's
to
do
you.
one copy in the file.
Well,
Keep this copy because I wrote on it.
And
Wrote on it.
I wrote on it so that we knew what we were all talking about.
Can I date them?
This is not yours, why am I handing this out?
Oh, to just write the date.
Oh,
Sorry, I thought
oh.
you needed it.
One more.
There's like 10 pens.
That's right. I'm ready for any
Wait, why am I
contingency.
holding this
I got
pen?
pink color.
I like it. I had one of these pens when I was a kid, and it smelled.
Japanese China, that may chime in on the
It had
demo
scented
issue.
inks.
I think that kind of the slippery slope is, demolition by neglect. I'm not saying that's the
Yes.
case here.
Well, no,
but,
it's deferred maintenance everywhere.
landmarks,
so.
I think there are other buildings that people are not taking care of them, and how do you get a license to? It's difficult, it's
Mhm.
very difficult.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
Sorry to make you wait.
that's fine.
Cool.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Nicole. Hi, guys.
And I hope you're not going to ask us about seeker.
We're waiting all night to.
And then we're gonna ask you about deferred maintenance. Speaking of deferred maintenance, come on down.
But this is Karen Parks.
I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. Sixth Street.
That's you, girl.
I haven't been, you guys have been workshopping this, and I haven't been here on this, so I
Jump right in.
apologize if I say
I'll
say
jump
the
in.
wrong-
Look, you don't even have an audience.
So it was very interesting for us to be sitting in the audience listening to that conversation. We've come across very similar, or some similar condition of this building. And we've been looking for a long time about trying to figure out how to keep it, and at the same time, you can't ignore what's in front of your eyes. So we've made a pass at trying to describe in words what we're seeing.
Are we talking about the cottage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And at the same time, assembled photographs that also kind of illustrate those points. So probably it's easiest to go through those. So I don't know if we.
There's 2 sets of the photos, so.
Okay. So I don't know how we do it. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
And these aren't in any particular order, I would say, but so there are a couple of things that are going on. First off, there is this board and batten structure. That's the siding on it. I assume that this is Gothic period, trying to look like that. There's a skirt board that goes around the base of the building. And what's happened, obviously, at some point is that somebody came along and decided to try to consolidate the foundation because obviously the stone foundation was moving, and they poured a concrete lip around the entire
keep it
perimeter
together?
to try to keep it together.
Oh my gosh, that's creative.
And they used, they did a variety of things. Some of it is not really clear how they managed to do the sequence, but they did take up sections of the floor inside and put boards against what was the location of where the sill plate was. Actually, this is what I'm going to look at this for this description. Okay, so this is very diagrammatic. So this is the board and batten. It's on a true 2x4 stud. At the bottom of the board and batten, at the top of the skirt board, there is a 2x3 cleat that's there nailed. And the 2x4 is nailed directly to the flooring, subflooring, which is also the finished floor, which sits on top of this original sill plate rim joist that went around the entire structure. This is the concrete that was poured around it. So the concrete was actually poured against the skirt board, and you can see where the grade is. So the grade is actually above. I don't know if it's always been above, but I don't think it probably was above this girder. So this is a problem. So what
You don't say.
Trap
Not
all the
everywhere.
moisture out against it.
Exactly.
But what they did is they came in, and this is the most diagrammatic. It's just like a placeholder for what the foundation they used to sit on. But they came in and they put a board at the back of here, and they poured in and around the rubble foundation over there. So there are places where you can see, because we've opened the probes in the floor, where you can see they kind of force the concrete between the rubble, and you can see the formwork of the concrete. So and in some places that formwork was taken away, and places it was left. Anyway, so that's the primary problem. Is that first of all, as opposed to standard construction where you would have a rim joist and the joist coming into it, and then you'd have the subfloor, and then you'd have a sill plate on the bottom of the studs of the wall. There's no sill plate on the bottom of the studs, so the studs just come down, so they keep coming down. So in some places on the perimeter, they've actually they poured the concrete, and where the sill plate doesn't exist anymore, the concrete came in and around, and then they put brick underneath to hold up the studs individually, and then built brick around it as well, so that's been waking up moisture into the bottoms of the studs too. So yeah, it was.
So
it
it's
was a
like
little
little brick bases set
Yeah,
around.
so we can see some of these photographs here. So that's the basic concept, and that's what this is. So this perimeter is this concrete that was poured around. We can come back to these other photographs. So you can see where we've taken off, or where it was off. Actually, this is the place where it was just off. So here's the skirt board that's missing. You can see up here that 2x3 cleat. Up here. You can see the space below it. That is actually the subfloor.
Oh, wow.
And that white band back there is the edge of a piece of sheetrock. So it's the back edge of sheetrock, where it was taped together. And so that obviously that's a more modern edition. This is at the back of the cottage, so it's actually right now. In fact, there's a slab back here. So this is the slab of that patio that's poured against the skirt board as well. These photographs are on the larger image of the cottage. plan.
When was this building last occupied?
It was
rather
actually not
recent.
that long ago.
It's like,
It was a rental
yeah, it's-
for, when Kerry Downey owned the property, he rented that. So I think it's, you know, recent.
Some municipalities have inspections pre-rental, and you can't rent until it's inspected and approved
Yeah.
as inhabitable.
Yeah.
Also
Um,
have biennial or every 3-year
Right.
inspections
It's
of commercial
actually
properties in most places.
Yearly in
Yeah.
Newburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this corner is where these photographs were taken, not this one. This one was taken from the porch, but these are this corner up here, so where it's against the grade. In every case, I think that the floor is between 2 and 10 inches above adjacent grade. So some places it's very close, and other places it's a little bit farther away. But here, this is the sill plate. This is the stud coming down. So your question, so here's the stud. There's the brick underneath it, and there's the brick on either side of it. This was just after the board was removed, so before it was cleaned up. So you can see a little bit better once it's kind of dried out what's going on. But you can see here's the stud coming down, there's that girder, and it's not there. There are animals in there. They made holes through. So that's the foundation. Let me just see if there are more foundation photographs to see. So this is now on the inside. So these are the probes on the inside. This is that same corner. And the reason we went, this part of the structure has, you actually step up from here to here currently. And the reason you do that is because there are 3 or 4 inches of flooring that's been added on top. And we think is part of it is because that's where the kitchen is. They put plumbing in, so they cut the subfloor.
Right.
They put plumbing in, and they put layers on top of it. So we haven't cut through that to get down below. But in any case, so this is this corner, literally the corner. So here, this is concrete, and you can see that's this concrete here. This is a joist. So that joist goes, you can see that it's rotted inside of it. So this brick and this brick are the same. This is perpendicular, so this is against that wall. What they did is, because the girder rim joist is not there, they just put a 2x4 ledger in front of it, and then put a 2x4 diagonal to brace it to dirt. I don't see what's down there that is bracing against. This is just an example of some of the shimming that was done, kind of the point of shimming of some of the joists. It's even harder to see this upside down than I set up. But this is some of that formwork. So this would have been part of the original wood, I guess, and this was a piece of form. So you can see the concrete here. You can see the concrete kind of bleeding between the. This is an extension. This is this corner here. So this is an extension of a stud that was eaten out and missing, and they just kind of shoved a 4x4 in it. You can see even the hammer marks that were used to drive it in. This is the most encouraging image, and that is the foundation wall underneath this section. So
What direction?
so this is north. This is the corner we've been looking at in terms of the.
So sort of the main volume.
So this section of the wall sits on top of this foundation, which is in like what appears to be pristine condition. So it's partially dressed stone. It's chinked, so and you can see these little stones that are between it. Oh, here, right in there, you can see them. So it looks like it's the way it was supposed to be. But that's the only place we can see that's like that. It's possible that this section, because it's also somewhat protected from the outside, is in a similar condition, but that's where we can't
Off
over
those
the floor.
accretions.
Okay, so you pointed out to me in this plan view where the biggest problems were again. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time, like.
You should, well.
It's like the worst
It's easier for
rot.
me to tell you that this place is good.
Okay.
And you said that's where the
Okay.
step up is
Got it.
from.
This step up is on this side.
Oh, it's on that side.
That's right. So here the problem is that they sandwiched wood between concrete.
Yeah.
which
So
that's
and
like
all the way
inside.
around.
And you can see, that's right. And you can see that on the inside, in the crawl space, there's dirt. And that dirt, if you look down, you can see where the wood has kind of floated to when settled in one place, and you know, this has been infiltration. So I'm sure that there is a dirt floor to the crawl space that was probably level at some point, but it is alluvial. At the moment.
And have you been able to date when all of the concrete was added, roughly?
No, actually.
If you had to guess.
What is this?
If I had to guess, that's
Like-
nogging.
Decades and
Where is
decades,
it?
or
Upstairs?
a decade?
It is,
It's
it's at
in
least 20 years.
One of the
I would
side
say,
wings.
because of the, you know, there hasn't been gutters on the house probably for a long time, so the amount of wear that's on this really is acting as a kind of a splash pan
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah,
where the
sure.
water has gone down and
Yeah.
bounced up and stuff, which probably actually exacerbated and accelerated the rot.
Certainly.
You can see the grain of the concrete, so I would say 20 years or more. I mean, it depends upon the quality of the concrete when it's poured, how hard it is and how wear it is. So that's the foundation part. So it's really, if you want to kind of visualize it, it's studs coming down to sit on floor, which is, you know, not really supported right now. And then to help.
Actually, it's probably longer than that, because in the entire time that I've lived in Cold Spring, I've never seen Downey do work on that building.
So Downey owned that, bought that from Smith? Is that who?
Well, Downey sold it to Crow.
Right,
Yeah, but
but
when
but
it-
who owned it before Downey?
And you,
Smith
that's how long,
Oil.
that's
Smith
30 years,
Oil
right?
was there, yeah.
30 years.
I don't know how long. Downey's been in for a long time.
Yeah, I would just say that would be the minimum you would need to get that concrete looking like that.
Yeah.
But the wood is so rotten that I really do think that the concrete accelerated the process.
Well, it's.
So
they're
where are the joists?
slamming down the
Where are the
stairs.
joists sitting? The floor joists?
Well, the floor joist, so here's the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So the floor joists are spanning in this direction, in the shorter direction.
But
And-
what are they sitting on? They're
Well,
sitting
they're spanning, they're sitting on either brick that they were put in, or some of these blocks that were added in. I mean, they're
Each one is
embedded in
different.
concrete, ends are embedded in concrete.
Okay.
The midspan has been, you know, you can, if we opened up a hole here, as well as in the corner here, in this corner, and then right in here, because they had already done that kind of bracing work there, so those were easy to take out. But when you look under there, you see that they have, you know, like 8x8 blocks of wood that have shims. I mean, when I looked down there first, I thought, wow, that's a beautiful piece of stone, but it's wood. It's just
Sitting on the dirt.
Yeah. So there are some serious structural issues, and you know, what's holding it up? I don't really know. Just some people say it doesn't know any better, so it hasn't fallen down. There is a, you know,
Just the right balance of
The siding
concrete
fold.
and brick and wood.
What's the story with the brick between the studs?
so the nogging
Yeah.
would dates it between 1810 and 1900. So when you had board and batten on the outside, and you had, it seems some places there was boards on the inside, not plaster, so it's probably a really working class structure. You wanted to reduce the amount of airflow. So one solution to that was to put brick in between the studs, and that reduced the airflow. So it's really
Well,
put
that's
up
a typical,
on the
though,
flat.
that's a Tudor construction, with brick.
Nogging is all over the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
It's very cold.
But it's only up
Which,
to this
I
roof
guess would be like in a Tudor revival, so we're talking about the same period, early 1800s, late 1800s, during the 1800s. Actually, let me see, we're talking about after the Civil War. I guess that's the question. Any idea when the structure, we won't even call it a house, when the structure was built?
sometime between 1810 and 1900. Because that's when, and I just don't know.
Pinning it down to
Century. I mean, but
century.
That only
I
works
mean,
if you're talking
the
about fossils.
Gothic, you know, the board and batten to try to make it look higher and stuff, that's the same period.
Right.
There's nothing that really kind of narrows it down yet.
It's,
No
it's
pennies or,
it's a dead spot on Sanborns down there.
Is it?
unfortunately. But I don't know. I mean, I look at it and guess 1850, 1860. I mean, you missed the conversation we had earlier about.
I was gonna say, let's look at Carolyn's
about-
map and see what surrounds
about
it.
the development of, you know, some portions of development in the village following surges of industry at the foundry.
Yeah.
And this is,
Well,
what, she said
actually,
1860, right?
actually, she had some early maps, like she had the Beers map.
Yeah, that's what we were
And,
talking about.
and the other maps, so it would be a question of whether or not, I mean, if you talk to Karen and you know, and take a look at the maps that she has.
Yeah, we've gone to the Historical Society, we, you know, the scale of the cottage is such that when you blow one of those images up to the point where you can see it, the pixelation takes over
Yeah,
and it
right.
disappears,
Terrible.
so.
I told Beth that the house right down the street that we're looking at in a public hearing next week,
Mhm.
number 7 Market,
Mhm.
the interior of that house is so much like Beth
Yeah.
and I've been in this building, so much like the interior of this one.
Same
I'm
smell.
wondering if there weren't a whole, yes, same state. Actually, this one's worse. I'm wondering if there weren't a bunch of them down there.
Mhm.
That have-
Well, they
Well,
do seem
in the
to be like-
1853 map, you know, it showed that the development was on a lower part of, was what's now Market Street, and then a little bit, a clump of buildings just on the other side of what is now the railroad tracks, back then it wasn't. And then a little bit further up by where the church is. So it probably had to do with what was going on with the foundry.
Yeah. So here we
That
are
seems like
in
a kind of
another,
shack.
in another situation where we have, I mean, Mr. Frontier was accurate in his description of demolition by neglect. I mean, this one was a building that had terrible patches made and then nothing for a very long
Mhm.
time. And yet, we have a building that has character and significance, and, you know, retains its form, retains its line, and it's 10:30 at night.
Well, what is it that you guys
What
are,
do we do
what are
next?
you guys looking
Well,
to do?
we're
So afraid.
here in a workshop because we're trying to figure out what you can do, because there's, just as Karen was saying, once you get to the level of work on this structure that it requires, then you have to get into the whole core conformance thing that we can't accomplish with what we've got. So what do we do?
See, if I remember correctly, and you know, this is just, you know, I've heard stories. Downey never used this for a residence. He used it as a
Rented
shed.
it.
He used it as a shed. Because they used to, they rented out the house next to it. He had his trucks in that.
Yeah, people were living
People
in
were
there.
living there. I mean, there's
There
a
was-
full kitchen
there's
in
a
there.
kitchen,
I mean, you know. there
Well,
was carpet
it
in
could have
there.
been at one point, but I know,
But I don't think you have a satellite dish on a shed.
okay, but I mean, you know, when was that?
Depends on how much you like your shit.
He could have gone in there and watched, you know, that was his man cave.
We're gonna stop that conversation right
Yeah.
here.
It's floral wallpaper, so. It's the man cave a little,
Well, I don't know, that wallpaper, you know, could check to see what Karen found in the basement there.
I would
Okay,
I would
so-
really
but
take
I
issue
mean-
with it
So
being
what,
not inhabited.
what
I
you're,
mean,
what
it's
you're, what
really-
you're saying, what you're proposing is to demolish this.
Well, that's a simple solution, but I don't know that that's what the solution is. It's, you know, but when you think about, here's this diagram, right?
So you
So,
jack it up and pour a new foundation?
well, see, there's no integrity to it.
Yeah, there's
Right,
nothing to
so,
jack up.
there's no shear capacity because you have Gordon batten, so there's no sheathing. I mean, there's
That's right.
3/8 inch sheet rock on the inside that has some shear capacity, but not very much. So by the time you start to consolidate the building to a point where you can jack it,
I see what you're saying.
there's no space. You can't go that way with it, because that's the street. You can't go that way with it because there isn't enough room. That way you're over the cliff, and that way's into the driveway where you get any kind of, you know, access and workability. So then you can only go up,
Right.
And once you go up, you have to go out so far to be able to needle it, to be able to put it in a new foundation. That, you know, that's a problem. So we've been trying to talk through different scenarios with
Yeah.
contractors of how you go about doing it.
I was gonna ask you to
And
talk
the
to
site logistics are a nightmare.
Mm.
You know, not to say that it can't be done. But
And the intended use is
Guest
a
house.
residence?
Guest house.
Right, because the other thing then that you're going to have to deal with is the energy code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the energy code, it's the, you know, everything about it. I mean, there's nothing, the mechanical right now is, you know, there's a corner. We haven't talked about the brick. This cottage.
Yeah, there's that addition to the south, right?
Well, so it's a tri-part addition. So, what do we have actually here? I have it right here. It's easier to see right here. So from what I can see, this bump out, right, which is, this guy is probably the oldest and original part of the whole thing. It was probably just like an ice house or something, it had a window in it, which you can see is
Oh, yeah, I
infilled.
can see. Yeah.
The brick above has been consolidated, and that's, this detail is in here somewhere. Right? So you can see the original lime, you know, kind of yellower mortar versus the patching mortar that they did around the whole thing. So this was built first. There is a joint here. Here's the joint, right? So down below, they kind of started out interlacing the brick. They got to a certain point, just kind of gave up and went for whatever. But the mortar from this wall wraps that wall, so you know that this one was here first. And then there's this L-shaped guy that has just a cold joint in between, and it's literally a 2x wall that's freestanding, so it's just like that. That's all it is. So this and these two portions each have a separate concrete slab on grade. This guy, which is why the toilet's here, it just has brick going right down. You can't see the bottom of the brick. There's nothing. The brick just goes down and disappears into the grade, so you can't.
Was it an
Yeah,
outhouse?
outhouse.
It could have been an outhouse, so that's why, you know, it could, it's
probably got
probably
rid of
the
the
most
window.
original structure, and then they added on to that. So, if you're interested in keeping that, which is.
That's
I have
sad.
more to say
Yeah.
about it. Then you definitely can't slide the house that way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can't move that. The quality of the craftsmanship in that brickwork, I think, is the equivalent of a really beginning trainee.
Could be appropriate if it was an outhouse.
Well, the outhouse was the best light part, but it also has the brick that is you know, spalling. And it's really because it's low fire, so when you tap it, it's totally dull. When you go around the corner, like even this brick, when you hit it, there's a ping almost to it. I mean, it's a harder brick, so you know it's closer to the fire. But you know, here there's a whole section in this part where there are 7 courses, which were just either they changed the opening size and then decided when they got up to there that they were going to narrow it down because the brickwork above goes over in the kind of normal, you know, common bond, or common. But you also get like 7 courses where the vertical joint is right in line, or just like slightly shifted. So they were just learning.
Yeah.
Whoever built this. So it's old.
Which is interesting in and of itself,
But
I
that's
guess.
kind of it. There's nothing really more historical about it than it being old. So we're really trying to figure out what to do, you know, because we don't have much to salvage.
Do we have a site plan?
Yeah.
Is this the functioning driveway right now? The functioning driveway comes here.
Well, there's two.
Yeah,
There's
that's
this,
down here.
but
Okay,
there's a driveway.
so why
that goes
can't
in
you
there.
go this way?
Well, because this is a cliff. So in terms of doing work,
isn't this a driveway area?
Yeah,
Right now?
but if you move this over here, as I
Uh-huh.
was suggesting, then you wouldn't be able to have access to the site. Because this is cliff and that's cliff.
Oh, I see, that once you get up the driveway, then you can't, it's.
Well, this driveway goes down to the bottom, just as you see how far down this is. These are what, 10 feet?
I'm not doing
10, 20, 30
So,
feet?
so I'm trying to understand the problems here. If I were to stabilize this building, stabilize the frame and shift it this way, the challenge is you can't get heavy equipment up to dig for a proper
That's right.
foundation
That's
because
right.
of the grade this way.
That's right.
And
Well, this is a
due-
cliff,
this is
and that's a
Well,
cliff.
that and also, don't you have rock outcropping?
We do have rock
Yeah.
On this
outcropping,
side.
yeah.
So, okay.
And by the way, rock outcropping always signals water. There's always
Yeah.
water wherever there's rock.
Wow, okay.
Is it two-story?
Yes.
Yeah,
This is a
one and a
little
half.
teeny tiny second story.
So a little bit of an attic, essentially with a window on
Yep, that's right. Has a wall dividing it per way. There's actually there
It's
is.
a chimney
There's
that's
a
been
chimney.
abandoned
Right,
and cut off.
and this is that little side room, right?
That's right, so that's where this is the side room, right? Here's a chimney now, so the boiler is
Stairs come up here.
in this room here. So here's the chimney that's functioning. This chimney has been cut off and, is below the roof, it's abandoned, so it doesn't even show up. You don't see it outside the room.
Exterior.
They capped it on the inside of the building?
Yeah, it's common, you just take the chimney down to below the roof and then you roof over it.
Oh,
It's just
okay,
gone.
yeah.
But it's
They don't
still
use
there.
it.
Yeah,
You
they
know,
don't
it's
use
just.
it.
I was just envisioning like a room with like a chimney that just truncates, and I was like, why would you do that?
To smoke or?
All right.
And this isn't really part of the discussion, but this horizontal siding
Mm-hmm.
that has a cap and then vertical above it is on this wall behind this chimney.
Huh.
So it goes right across. So this was an
original?
exterior wall at some point,
Yeah.
right?
My
And
first house
then
had
this
stuff like
was
that.
added onto it.
Inside.
Weird.
I didn't really look at the brick when I went down and walked around to pick up on all the subtle things that you did. I didn't imagine the narrative you were going to give, that this was
The
older
oldest.
and this came out from here. I don't know why, I can't figure out why someone would have done that, but it is what it is. What are you looking for? This is just another big challenge. What are you looking for tonight?
A magic solution.
Yeah, I see
How's
the
that?
brick course.
Well, what
Yes,
do you do when
Getting pretty crazy there.
they want to keep the form of it? And, it's this historic thing. It's sitting on this rock outcropping. It's very iconic. I mean, do you keep the form, but then you're starting to replace almost every element? And then what do you have in the end? I mean, it's a question, we just don't know the answer to.
How deep is the crawl space below it?
Between 8 and 8 and 18 inches.
8 and 18 inches.
So there are places where you can, again, I think that the dirt continues to wash into this thing.
Mhm.
When it's wet, it's always been damp when I've been down there, or when I've been to the site and opened up. So it could be that it's somewhat deeper than that. We don't know what the real bottom of the footing is. I mean, it's common in Cold Spring to have built on top of, it's not riprap, but it's something like riprap. It's this kind of soil that when you compact it, it's like rock. And they just laid their foundations right on top of that. So it's likely that that's what they did here. It's a combination of the ledge that they put it on, and they put it on this other material. Name escapes me.
Well, it wasn't Thai style, right? They were aiming for efficient building.
That's right.
And-
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Well, no, I was just trying to think if there was any way to kind of from the inside, not to just keep pouring more and more concrete against it, but if there was any way, you know, sort of from the interior, from below, to create some sort of a frame for it to just sit on, so that it was to a degree that you could make repairs around the outside, but it wouldn't really get you any further than you were. What was the, just for a point of context, the original plan for the homeowners, property owners in here, were they planning on gutting the whole space, or was it only really just sort of like some cosmetic? I guess my question is, I'm seeing all of this is existing. Was the plan to open this all up and make it one big room, or were they keeping essentially what was similar to what they had before?
We were, it was opening up somewhat, and there's a small, we were going to put a small addition on the back, so, you know, you're sort of keeping this configuration, but this gets opened up into a bigger space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the side things are, you know, just bedrooms.
Right.
So, and you know, keeping the bathroom in the same location, keeping the mechanical here.
And then putting in like a second floor loft.
And,
yeah. Okay.
Oh, and there's, and yeah, and then, yeah, so the second floor gets a loft, raising the roof just 2 feet so that you can actually utilize that space.
And then this end of it is going to be open.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know what they intended when they bought the property, because it has, you know, these other buildings on it.
I'm just wondering how much of the
chimney?
space you were going to be opening up for access points to everything below it.
Right. So
Well, part of the problem is really that if in order to keep water out of the crawl space, what you're going to have to do is order, you know, see how far down this goes, and waterproof that. Because otherwise, you know, you can sit there and you can't do anything on the inside. You can't keep water by applying some film to the inside. Just never works. I mean, I've just seen it too many times. I mean, one thing it would be to excavate over here and apply some waterproofing, but again, you don't know how far down this goes right now. Right?
we don't, and the thing is that it seems that while that one section of foundation is dressed stone, the rest of what we see looks like it's gravel. In other words, round rock from Vermont, so it doesn't stack well, and if you remove the soil, it's not going to stay there.
So, Sean, what I think you were saying was, if you were planning on gutting the building anyway, while it's gutted, could you intervene in the foundation from within the structure and somehow?
Yeah, that's what I was.
So if that's the case, you're talking about, I mean, this is how the addition got put on. I have you know where I live, I have a property that has no driveway and is on a hill with a retaining wall. We hand dug the foundation. It's on the addition of our house. It's not super deep, you know. It's like 3 feet deep. It's what we needed to take the weight.
You need to get the
right.
cross line.
So, I mean, this honestly, I'm just throwing out ideas. This isn't much bigger. It is, but it's not that much bigger.
There's a lot more perimeter.
There's a lot more perimeter. I'm wondering if Sean's onto something. While you're not worrying about what's on the inside, what can be done from there to build something around. I'm not articulate at this point.
But the other thing to keep in mind is, I mean, even if they were able to get into this crawl space, how much earth is even below the dirt
right,
floor?
Right, because it's on the outcrop.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could be like 6 inches.
Well, that was the next thing. That's the next thing I was going to say, is that even much further from the river, it wasn't long till we were pulling up boulders.
Yeah.
I've done work similar to this before in the city, like holding buildings up and stuff. So, and I know you can do it. On the Upper East Side, it tends to be more cost effective because the property is worth so much more. But from a practical point of view, in terms of getting it to the point where you could do something with it, you would strip all the sheathing off inside and out. You would apply some kind of shear capacity structure on the outside sheets
This
of
is
plywood.
what happened at
something.
178.
You would take away all the nogging, right? Because that, you can't lift that.
Right,
It
we're
just
not
falls
talking
out.
about a wood frame, we're talking, yeah.
And then.
Well, it
and
is-
then-
Well, it is wood frame,
So
but-
then you'd end up with these ends of studs that come down.
Yeah.
Right, and you'd have to attach something to that so you could pick this whole thing up.
Yeah.
So that's just the mechanics of it, you could do that. And then you could, support it so far outboard around the perimeter. I mean, it's kind of a trick because you're going so far beyond. But then you could jack it up potentially and float it and dig out a foundation and pour a new foundation.
And put down
Huge
your
box.
studs again.
And what would you end up with?
Yeah, and then
The
what would
question
you
is,
attach those
so
studs to?
Right.
And well, what are you saving? What fabric?
Yeah. Here's one question that I would have for you. Because I know, for example, my neighbor, his sewer line comes over to my property because he's got a rock outcropping that prevents him from getting to the street. You've got a rock outcropping here. I would be curious, I think if you are serious about trying to do something, I would do some test pits around these foundations and see how far down they go, because they may be sitting on the rock. Because I know in my house, towards the back end, there's a rock outcropping in the crawl space, and the foundation sits on that. So I don't think that the issue is not necessarily the foundation is unstable. Is there any evidence that anything's moving?
There's evidence that things moved in the past, yeah, for sure. I mean, the concrete that's there obviously consolidated something, but
okay,
it
yeah.
trapped the
But-
the wood, so that's what's gone, and you wouldn't be able to adhere to that.
Well,
What's poured there, because it's just too
yeah.
erratic.
Well, the other thing that you have to take into consideration is that you're on a rock that's next to the railroad tracks. You've got trains coming by, and that does give vibration that's transmitted. But what I would do is do a test pit, see how far down this goes. Does it sit on rock? And the reason I say that is because I think that your bigger problem is not the size of the foundation. The bigger problem is the water that's seeping into
That's
the
right,
crawl
Yeah.
that's
space.
right. But they're related to each other.
Right. Well, but I think that if you deal with the water problem, then you're going to be able to do something if you wanted to do something on the inside as far as the floor chips, because a lot of this is wood. Wood can be replaced. Are these actual 2x4s?
Yes. Well, some of them are. I mean, you can see in this photograph, for example, with the pink little that stud is barely 1.5. But other ones are 2 and 4. So it's not. These are just the ones we can see.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can answer that accurately. But that one where this was taken, I mean, that section is really. Taken here. Right, so that's this 2x4 is that, a 2x4. And this happens to be one that's not, trapped in brick as well.
And moving further up the walls from the grade, is everything on the interior and the exterior workable and safe and salvageable and things?
What's that? That's driftwood. That's the siding.
Hey, that's weathered
Or-
wood. That gives it character.
You can
Gives it
have that on your
character.
wall, but you can't paint it or seal it or.
Yes, it can. I mean, basically what you're talking about is you have to get a real good primer to seal a wood.
Well, you have to bond out in between all that grain because it's just pulled apart. That wood is failed and it's just pulled apart from all the moisture
Well-
and
Well, it pulled apart because it's dried out. That's why.
right, but
Wood-
it's lost its structural integrity. I mean, it's not, that's not
Alright.
prevalent, but
If-
that's the
if-
description of that.
The only time it would lose its structural integrity is when it rots. If it has dry rot, then it needs to be replaced. But wood that has grain like that, especially old growth wood, that's what we're talking about. I can remember I was helping a friend of mine remodel his kitchen on this house in Jamestown, Rhode Island, and I tried driving a wire nail into this 2x4, and it wouldn't go. And he had to go out and get some cut nails because the wood was that durable.
Well, I think you're going to end up with some number of inches are going to need to be cut back because they are wet and rotten, and then pieces sistered in, right? So this is the question we had with Kent's house, which also has board and batten, big chunk that was rotten. They had reconfigured the door, and he sistered in new pieces to continue the board and batten down. Once painted, it's very difficult to see. It looks great. I remember, I mean, I can't speak for every board on that building, but I did poke a pen in a few places. And the siding is much more solid than I expected. And I would tend to agree with Al that primer and paint, I mean, Bondo, it's not spread. It's certainly dry, but it's not gaping holes in most places. Which is why we're talking about priming. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not ready, I wouldn't be
yeah,
ready to make
I
a
would-
decision about
yeah.
ditching the siding tonight based on a photograph.
Right.
But we do know that some length of it at the bottom is gonna need to be removed to deal with the rot you have there now. I personally am feeling, after these two discussions tonight, I'm feeling like I need to sit with the concept of how much removal constitutes retention of, any retention.
Right.
And I feel as if I really want to do a bit of reading and get some SHPO guidance on the issue. We're getting to a point where we are seeing the recapturing of buildings that we're getting down. We've had so much work done in the village, and now we're getting down to the remaining buildings,
That's
and the
right.
remaining
That's
buildings
exactly
are
right.
rough.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And so this is not a question that this district has faced, and suddenly we're facing two of them. And
The
this
low-hanging
one,
fruit has been picked.
what?
The low-hanging fruit.
The low-hanging fruit has been
Yeah.
picked. And we have a building here that has significance because of its association with as worker housing, right? It has character defining features. It has some unique features that are of historic interest, even if it is
A Boy Scout
a very,
project.
a Boy Scout project and perhaps not the most refined use. But
Well,
it's a building that were it to go away would be a loss.
That's right.
Which
Um,
is
I-
why we're
Why you're here.
Why you're
discussing
doing it,
this,
right.
yeah.
But I feel
The-
like I need to sit with it.
The thing that you have to remember is that just because it's old does not guarantee it had good craftsmanship.
Oh, of course.
That's-
Of course.
A lot of this stuff, especially, my feeling is that this was probably the guy who owned the oil company, because I don't know how far back down he goes, but certainly before him, that's the way the oil was delivered to Cold Spring. They
That's why
brought it
that
up by
pier was
barge.
built.
And so I think this was never intended to be prime property. I think they built it similar to the worker housing, and so the level of craftsmanship was comparable.
Well, and
But
we
it's
do.
iconic. I mean, it's something that sits on this overlook as you go down to the train station.
Also, I think that the issue of demolition by neglect is real in both of these cases. Two buildings that were not maintained. This one.
I'd like to see that.
This one started. You would like to see it. You should see the kitchen, the sink in the kitchen upstairs. You like sinks too.
There's two great sinks in that
There's
part.
two great sinks.
Turquoise, or is it?
No, it's got its
No.
original porcelain legs and it's drain board. It's beautiful. This one began more humbly than the other one did. Maybe. I mean, that one was a bakery. They've not had much done to them in a very long time, and things that should have been addressed weren't addressed, and you know, in preservation theory, right, we say that just because something has been neglected doesn't justify its demolition. Where is the line drawn? And I don't know the answer to that right now.
Well, we're getting into discussion on 126 when we should be looking at
No,
this.
I'm
But
raising the same issue, because I think it is, it's a building that had
except-
poor repairs,
Yeah,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
and then nothing done to it for a very long time.
I know,
I
but,
had
you know,
a big old
basically,
porcelain with the drain board in
I
my
would
old
be
house.
awfully surprised
French.
if this,
They're great.
this sort of
Can't kill it.
tripartite structure wasn't built at once, and it hasn't really changed since it was built. Whereas that thing was added on, and slapped together, and did this.
I'm not
You
comparing
look
them
at-
structurally, the comparison I'm drawing is one of maintenance.
I agree, but I think to Al's point, are we making, in the abstract, are we making demands on a building that are inappropriate to its original construction, its original use, and its original intention? It's
In this
one
case, you
thing.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to take a, you know, beautifully made, finely engineered Amish barn, which, while it had a very straightforward industrial purpose, was built with such strength that it could be repurposed into 1,000 different uses, versus something which has a lot of historic materials in it and a lot of really charming aesthetic values, but you know what we as a community and we as them
Part of the
representing the property owners themselves. I mean, we're really taking this like this craftily constructed shed and trying to turn it into like a functioning residential building.
Silk pursed?
Sorry.
Turn
Yeah,
it into
yeah.
silk
It's,
purse?
But, I mean,
it's mutton dressed as lamb.
Well,
So I think to Al's point, it's like, you know, and to both of your points, just because it's old doesn't mean it's, you know,
Well
made
done.
well, which clearly we're seeing is not the case. So
With a portion of the building, anyway.
I think ultimately what we have to do is go back to those criteria that they list. And you know, that was why I was trying to get Karen to talk, you know, to dig out who was, I mean, you know, if it's a bakery and that's what it was, you know, George Washington didn't buy his bread there or whatever, you know, are there justifications? If I can remember off the top of my head, one is that it's associated with people of, you know, historical personages. It's an excellent example of certain style, and there are a couple of others that I don't recall. But I mean, I think those are the things that we have to look at. We have to look at the criteria to see, you know, what are the significance of these structures that justifies, you know, bending over backwards to preserve it.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I think it's also important to realize that, you know, this building, whether it's been used as a residence in the past or how safe it may have been to be, I mean, if this were still being, if the purpose of this building on this property were to be one of a kind of auxiliary structure, a shed or a man cave or a wood shop, I don't think we'd even be talking about its structural integrity right now. It would be a non-issue. I mean, the only reason why this is coming.
I'm not
But
sure about that.
you can't occupy it or do anything with it, even if you want to use it as a shed, I mean, it still has to be structurally sound.
Mhm.
It has to be repaired.
It has to have heat, it has to have a little power, and it has to have.
And I don't think we can also say, well, you can only use your building as X or Y.
No, but what I'm
was-
saying is, the discussion that we're having now is about how to remedy the fact that this building, that we want this building to be used for a residential reason, and it was built insufficiently in the first place. But that, I mean, I think we also all need to be aware of the fact that it was built insufficiently in the first place because it was never really intended to become a
residence.
great, wonderful guest
That's right,
house.
that's right.
So,
But
as far as the historic fabric of it is concerned, it's, I don't think it's, I think it needs to be addressed much differently than a great house that was neglected and left to rot, because it was never a great house to begin with.
Right, but it only has value to the owner or anybody if it can be occupied and not left to rot.
No,
Well,
So it has to be-
ultimately,
has to
that's
be
the
convertible
best,
into
yeah, the
something
best way of
that's
preserving a
viable.
structure is to have it occupied.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Well, the thing is that I think that ultimately, we all do need to sort of think about this, because ultimately, if we allow demolition or, vote against it, I think that, we all need to have good reasons as to why we voted that way. I think that where you guys can help us with this is do the research. I mean, find out as much information. I mean,
You heard what Karen presented.
Well, we can
tonight.
Yeah, you
do
can-
forensics, but we've looked, and, I mean, not at every map, but we've done.
Well,
some
I mean,
things
Karen
like it was.
Karen had some pretty good maps there. I mean, obviously, this building was related to the oil company that
Well,
occupied the site.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Did you see that on the map?
I mean, I
There
think
were,
this-
there were
this
uses written on the
promontory-
map, but I was looking at 126. I wasn't
Yeah,
looking at this.
I wasn't looking at that
Those
either.
maps, we can get them from the county, right?
From the clerk's office.
Yeah, so I can like drive over there and ask for it,
Mhm.
pay for it, and
Or,
they'll give it to
or
me.
ask Karen if she can.
I just wanna
Well-
have one, I mean, as a reference for us, because we're always like,
We used to have one on the
We never had
wall.
that one. The one that she has that's undated, the older one, we do not have here.
yeah, the 1852.
There was 1853, and then there's
And
one prior.
1853.
There's one prior that's not dated, that
Yeah.
she had.
It was.
And that area, down in here, was documented on that map.
Right.
But
Because-
again, I wasn't
because that-
looking there.
That
That
was the
was-
original part of Cold Spring,
That
was
was
the
the one that
lower
was
part.
filed in 52.
I mean, this one, you look at this little entryway here, this little vestibule, you think, first of all, what house had a vestibule like that? And when you're standing there looking out at Market Street, which of course isn't where it was originally,
Mhm.
it's moved over when they did the
Rail line.
rail line, and they did in fact, not the rail line, but the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
When they changed the terrace. It's kind of like one of those fascist buildings where you're standing out there and you're kind of right there, either looking, watching everything that's happening, or you're like presenting. And I think that this could have very well been one of those houses where that's where they kept the books, and they walked out and they made sure that they could look over all the workers working in
Possible.
the field, because there's something weird about the proximity of that entrance to the cliff. It's like, why would that be so sheer right there?
Well,
So
it would be.
we don't
it
know,
would-
and it's
yeah,
conjecture, but what was the purpose of this building that we have not been able to ascertain
Well,
in any of our research?
Yeah, the interesting part is that, what were the grades here? In other words, we know that they built up they built up Market Street when they built the overpass, and that was in, I think, the 60s or something like that. And so the question is that before the bridge was in place, what was this? I mean, that's at street level, and so was this built back then, in the 60s, or was it prior to that? Because, this thing is just jammed up against what looked like a regular house, that is another rental unit in the back over there.
Well, I think it would be useful to
Or-
look at those maps. I'm beginning to wither, and not able to track the conversation.
Okay, so we can do some more research. I mean, we can try to open up some more probe. Part of the trick with probes is you're
Well,
cutting into,
into the historic fabric you're trying to say.
and you can't see any other way. I mean, you can barely see now. So.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do any probes, the place to do it is on the inside, because ultimately you're going to have to insulate the building if you want to use it for anything. So the question really becomes, do you insulate it on the outside or the inside? Actually, on the outside may be a little bit better because you're taking up more space of this. And so...
Well, I mean, in my mind, in the worst case scenario, the most expensive way to do this would be to do pins. You would take out a 2-foot section of the foundation in different areas, and you would replace it with a new foundation. And then you would go around the whole building that way. Very expensive proposition. But this stuff, that can't stay. When you look at the condition of that and how it's consolidated, that cannot be worth an investment of building.
But let me ask you a question about this. Did you ever get to the bottom of it?
I can't get in there to dig down to do that.
Okay,
I mean,
because
I would have to open
here
up the
here
map
is
of the floor to be able to dig
I
down.
know
And
here's what
am I undermining that brown rubble?
here's the reason I'm asking that question is because ultimately, you know, what I think is going on, and I'm just projecting. I think this is sitting on the rock, and I think that's why it was built there, is because it's on a rock. I think this probably goes down to the rock. I think what you need to do.
I'm sure this does.
Well, what you need to do is dig down, because again, I think your more pressing problem is keeping water out. So either this has to be waterproofed, and it can be done with smeared on tar or forget that clay material, bentonite. And I think that ultimately that would be if you're going to keep any of this, your first step would be to keep the water out of the crawl space.
But also, if they're the structure, the foundation has to be able to take the structure they're wanting to put above it.
Yeah, but what you're talking about, essentially a one-story building. You know, I think that a 2-story building, I would not put on an 8-inch wide foundation, but a 1-story building.
But it's an existing 1.5. I mean, we're not proposing to increase the size.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the existing structure, and that could be, certainly if you're digging around, you can sort of see if there are stresses in the foundation which indicate that the foundation isn't strong.
But I think that there's 2 problems. One is the problem of the foundation, and I think the point that was raised earlier. The second is that even if the foundation is even if they can somehow clear everything out of the way to rebuild the foundation, the wood structure can't be moved or shifted or removed, because the point where the wood will eventually hit the stone has totally been, is disintegrating.
Right.
So
that's
the foundation
why
problem is one big problem, but the second problem is how do we then attach this wooden building, or what
remains
possibly
of it.
remains of it, to a new foundation? I think
I
that's missing link.
I think that if we're talking about building a new foundation for this building, I have a hard time justifying that in my mind.
I can't imagine how you justify keeping the building without putting a new foundation. I mean, I can't in good conscience go to an owner or a client and suggest that to them, because you can't keep the water at home.
It's just going to be ongoing.
I mean, unless you
problems.
poured another wall outboard of that, and then made that into if you pre-proofed this and pour another wall on the outside of it and enlarge it for the insulation. My bigger question is, once you get to the point of stripping it down to the studs so that you could potentially hold it up, when you go back to put it back together, what do you have?
Yeah, what are you putting back together?
You have a wood frame that no one's ever gonna see. That's totally insulated on the outside and totally sheathed on the inside. And what do you have left? Because you can't lift it up with the board and batten in place because you never be able to.
Unless you're taking off the board and batten, retaining the board and batten
Well, you could
off
do
to the
that.
side
Oh, you
and
could
putting the
easily
board
do
and
that.
batten back.
That
I mean, that's
That
your,
is
that's your,
doable.
well.
that's doable.
So if a question is, what of the fabric can we, in that case, do
You're
you take down the
maintaining the
frame,
sheathing.
rebuild the frame, and retain the sheathing?
Because at least the sheathing you could put on the outboard of the new insulation that you have
Right,
to have.
right.
And, if Al is right, and there is integrity to that board and batten.
And if the client is not.
You know, that's the issue. I mean, you know, once you start removing the board and batten, how much of it is really going to,
Well, you have to be very careful because, here, for example, this is one of the windows of this building, right? I know we're all getting exhausted, so I want to explain the rest
Yes.
of the pictures. These are all original board and batten, and this is all the original frame and the casing.
Right.
It all projects off of the surface. This is just infill. Where you see that the windows have been changed to vinyl, this part has been recessed back flush. And all
Those
these
are all
guys, these are
marble.
1x2s. They're not board and batten. I mean, they are board and batten, but they're 1x2s. They're not 7/8 by 1 1/4 with chamfered edges.
Mhm.
So, but you could save enough to put it all on the Market Street side.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then leave in the back could be
I
something
mean,
totally different.
that may be the way, I think we all keep thinking structure. But in this case, what we're concerned about, I mean, at the end of the day, what we're concerned about is what's visible from the public right-of-way.
That I
So,
think
so
would be doable.
if there were a way to retain the exterior, so for example,
The form of
the
it as
form,
well.
the form, and then to maintain some of the sheathing. So on 178, the proposal was, James wanted to put board and batten. And what was on that building was an old wide board clapboard.
Mhm.
And so this board did not vote to support the board and batten. It said, please maintain that character defining feature of the structure. So that may be a worthy exercise, is saying, okay, what are the character defining features of this? It's the roof line, it's the mass, it's the scale, it's the board and batten, it's the openings and the trim. How can we retain as much of that as possible?
And it's also the little brick
And it's the little brick, it's the
appendage,
little brick
which
guy.
it sounds like could be mostly.
Maintained. So maybe it's a matter of, we're all too tired and we need to stop thinking so deeply about how we maintain this structure and think about how we maintain the character of the structure.
No, I think, and certainly from the client's point of view, they like this. I mean, we all like this, the way it is.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
problem
it's
is.
falling apart.
It's
It's falling
iconic,
apart.
and they want to keep that as part of.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
it's
to Al's point, this, or someone's point, this is a different story than a building that's been so heavily modified. This is a
Right.
building that reads.
Yeah.
So how do you continue the legibility of this building in a way that I can't finish my sentence.
We're not proposing to replace it with something other. To your point about making a replica, when I heard that word, it's like, oh my God, that's terrible. That's a terrible thing to have to do. But that's, in essence, what we're kind of thinking we'd be doing if we.
But not if you were maintaining the
Not for me,
authenticity,
yeah.
material authenticity.
Material.
If there were a way to package the envelope, set it off to the side, know that we're gonna need to be sistering in pieces where it's been rotted, but we know that outside is coming back. How do we
Yeah.
deal with the broken bones and present the skin?
Like the Statue
That's
of
fine,
Liberty.
that's fine.
Yes, that was
what?
the next
The
thing I was
Statue of
gonna say.
Liberty.
Statue of Liberty. So did you want to keep it?
That was actually
Yes,
a very
I do.
useful exercise, to have this follow the other for me.
And this is a written description if you would also like a copy of that.
That's just a
And so I
draft
guess
of what-
my other big question is going to be one of sequencing. Also, we have applied to the zoning board. We have a public hearing.
What are you, for
That's-
zoning for?
We're in the front yard setback. We're in the
And
B1
because you're-
district.
Excuse me,
Every
because you're
40
modifying
feet.
it to that degree.
Because we're putting a 16 by 10 addition and we're proposing to raise the roof on, you know, this
Oh, it's a
portion of
whole
this.
site.
It's a
Yeah.
whole site.
Yeah, so it's the
Yeah.
whole site. I mean,
We're not
can we
touching it.
proceed with that, knowing where we're going here, what we're gonna have to, you know, propose?
Well, I guess we don't know exactly what we're doing here yet. I mean, you know, we talked about a whole bunch of options, but I think
You're talking
everybody
about the-
really needs to think about this and see exactly, you know, what is it that we're trying to say.
Can we proceed knowing that we have to get variances, whatever we do, whatever we're gonna do here?
Well, your variances, the only thing that I can tell that you're looking for as far as a variance right now, is the addition to the rear also within the setback?
This is in the setback, the
Okay.
addition to the rear. The garage is entirely in the setback. Nothing's really, there's minor changes to the exterior. A portion of this is also in the front yard setback, and, you know, we're proposing to raise the roof on this. And so there's, you know, this area of it would have to get a variance. I
Okay, well,
don't think it needs a side yard setback, but there's.
And I would assume that you're also gonna come to see us about raising the roof, I guess.
Yeah, we've gone to a
Discussed that.
workshop.
Yeah.
The
workshop about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
You were- I think
we
you were-
have talked, this is our third workshop, so we kind of
Okay.
discussed all of the
Yeah,
things.
you weren't there at the library, the first one we met in the
Right.
library.
Okay, so I see this is what you're proposing. That you're raising.
Yeah, so you see there, that's the original roof line, the dashed. I mean, I can show you
All
the
right.
bigger thing.
All right.
So, you know, but
And you're also looking to raise the roof here.
up this one as well. So both of those spaces are, you know, usable.
Wasn't that much too, it was like 6 inches or something?
One was 2 feet and one was 2'9".
The cottage was,
2 feet.
okay. Why am I thinking something's going up since 11:30 at night?
You're thinking of
I'm confusing it with someone else's house.
Sorry.
They had to raise
So we-
hands. Has 6 inches.
Well, we're gonna go to
What's
the
it over
zoning.
here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anything that you're doing, you're gonna have to go to the zoning, because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
working,
Right.
so, certainly, do we have an application, for next month? Whether we're talking about
You have
June.
denials from the building inspector.
Yeah, we have denials, but we don't have an application to us. Yeah.
We haven't given you an
But it's
application.
still, I think it's.
Because we've been
we wanna
workshopping.
have
So
a
trying to
talk
figure
about-
out-
Try to figure out what the
Yeah.
strategy is. So we're gonna go to zoning, we're gonna go back, we're gonna do
I've
potentially
done-
some more probes.
Yeah.
We're going to, do some more research. They're gonna do some more research, and then we're gonna come back together.
Well,
Yes.
but also your
Well, we're
your
scheduled.
proposal, your proposal before the zoning board, what we have looked at with you in workshop, as I recall, I'm trying to pull together from memory, is not what you're asking them for. I'm sorry that I cannot think of how to articulate this. I don't know why you couldn't take the concept forward to the ZBA as is and say that you are workshopping with us. Because what you're doing to the not the cottage,
Yes.
so whatever the building is
Yes.
that's attached to the garage,
Yeah, yeah.
that's not, those aren't major changes. I recall them being window changes and sun skylight or something, right? Cupola, right? So decisions that the zoning board that we make aren't gonna have a huge impact, or maybe any impact on what the zoning board talks about with you. With the cottage, there's a height issue, there's a setback issue, but you can tell them where we are in process. So I don't see why you couldn't
Yeah,
initiate
because
your
your variance
conversation with them.
for the height, for the roof line and the setback would be the same whether it's modifications to the existing building or replacing it with.
And you're looking at the same
structure.
footprint.
Yeah.
So I don't know why
Yeah,
you
so as long as your
couldn't.
footprint stays the same, you should be able to
So,
proceed.
but you know, we also don't want to get too far into any process without getting a read from them as well as, you know.
I think that's smart.
Okay, so we'll continue with that, and then we'll reconvene as a workshop, or should we put an application?
Why don't you check in and see where you are?
Yeah, so you're actually, because if for any reason they say that your height on the cottage, you can't go up, then that's really going to change a lot of things before you come back to meet with us again. So,
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Thank
And then
you
we'll take it from there.
Thank you for being willing to noodle things around on
Thanks for
this.
your time.
Also, for doing the same thing.
Go home and curl up in a ball.
All right, so, are they gonna, I had to go to the bathroom, sorry.
Right, they're going to zoning.
Okay, but,
We're
Can we go to zoning?
are you-
We're gonna probably come back to you. I think what makes most
well, the
sense is
next,
to come
next
back
meeting
to the
is
workshop.
June what?
Whatever the second Wednesday is.
Second Wednesday.
June 14th.
So should we schedule you
Old
for
business.
another workshop?
I
We
would
can
say
just-
yes.
We can find, you know, people can think about, you can do whatever research you want to do, and we can,
No, it's okay, the agenda is the answer. We don't need to keep talking about it.
Just put aside.
I can take them off, I'll put them on the agenda.
We're
and they
gonna
can
show
come
up, yeah, we'll come.
All right.
Okay.
We'll be here. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
We have two bits of stuff,
Correspondence?
just to tell you what we talked about earlier in workshop. We're not gonna go through the whole thing. But
Okay.
Carolyn did come in with a map. We had a discussion, we'll report out. But I've had an exchange with Stephanie, in
Mhm.
which I told her we are just getting creamed right now. They're continuing to work. They know that we are attempting to finish our portion. What Carolyn presented tonight sort of shifted our thinking about when we talk about history of the village and neighborhood distinctions. So when we're all more awake, we can have that conversation with you. So Tilly
Okay.
knows that we're working through things. Correspondence. I received an email this afternoon from the contractor for 124 Main.
Yes.
I saw that.
What's today's thing?
Today's the 24th.
Go ahead.
Correspondence was him forwarding a letter to the building inspector, copying me and somebody else, the owner of the building, that an engineer had advised the property owner that the building is not structurally sound. The property owner chose to not continue working with that engineer. That engineer wrote an advisory letter to the building inspector saying that it is his belief that the building is not structurally sound.
Right, and he's withdrawing.
He is-
He's no longer the.
He is no
He's
longer.
no longer there.
So
Engineer.
that will be the next thing that needs to be dealt with. It is the other side of the wall on 126.
Right. And I think that that's one of the issues, I mean, that became a collecting place, and water
Yeah.
has damaged both sides of the property line.
Okay, anything else? Here we go.
No, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Can we, not yet. Did you have a draft of minutes from last month?
I do, yeah, I can get this to you.
Okay, if you can
This is
send them to
an
Andrea.
invoice.
She's the
I'll
first.
give that to Mary tomorrow morning. Okay?
Andrea's the first line review, so if you can send her a draft, then she has something to respond to, and we can go through the checklist of what needs to be in place for minutes.
Yep.
Is next meeting
Next week is a public hearing.
but it's also a voting meeting?
Next week, or
Yes.
meeting?
Next week.
Next week.
Next week, because remember James Egan, there's
Egan and
the
Hurley.
neighbor notification. I know, we are getting creamed. So it is clear that we have to tighten up communications with the new clerk and the board secretary around instructions, and we need to put them on the village website for neighbor notification. We had to move him from tonight to next week. He has sent his notifications so that he has meets legal notification for neighbors. Right now, that is the only thing on the agenda. So your question was?
Can we vote on minutes during that meeting to clear up the
Yes,
June agenda?
if people are.
If we have a public hearing, so then it's a voting session.
Yeah.
Okay.
But can that be all that we, I don't know, we're probably gonna, how are we gonna finish this standards thing?
Well, I've got my part right here, it's gonna be simple. Just-
Oh, Stephanie wants to know if you have spoken with Mr. Watson, thank you.
No, I haven't.
Okay, she
No, I haven't.
implores you to do so.
Okay, all right. All right, yes, I'll give him a call, it's a phone call.
I'm gonna, based on the conversation we had this evening or the prior workshop, work away at the paragraphs. I think it's gonna be much more condensed than we originally envisioned.
Sure.
What
It's not
Sean
gonna.
wrote? I'm sorry, I'm losing track.
No, what,
No, what?
my piece, which is the history piece.
Okay. Yeah, Sean, I
My
will look
piece is
this over.
about,
Yeah.
this is,
We just need to respond
there's
to you.
no
I need
new
to-
information in this. It is all lifted from other parts of the ordinance.
That's fine, that's fine.
It is a very brief
It is-
way of introducing us.
Okay, well, wasn't that the whole purpose?
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Boom.
But, you know.
Boom, yeah.
But make sure that it is conclusive enough and also not so conclusive that people start reading it.
Okay. And here are the acknowledgements.
We'll review it.
There is one thing which, and Linda should tell us, preparation and publication of these guidelines is financed in part with federal funds from the National Park Service, Department of Interior, blah, blah, blah. However, the contents and opinions, then I think they want that.
Okay, I'll find out. Thank you, you photocopied for me.
The second thing, well, the acknowledges, who do we want to acknowledge?
Can we
Not Charlotte Eaton, she's,
let's not, I can't do any more
Okay.
tonight, I can't. So if
Well-
you go through the names, see who they were,
well, I know
and
who they
figure out
are.
who they are now, and write them underneath.
Except I don't know who we can acknowledge, who contributed to this.
So tell you what, let's
Think about it
disband, you think about it, put together a proposal to which we will respond.
Do you want me to think about it? Because my part's done.
No, this is
No, I'll
an
do it.
acknowledgement for outside people.
Yeah, that's fine, Sean.
And
Sounds good with
this
outside
part is
people.
simple, it's just the
hate me.
village board of trustees.
Right.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, do I have a motion
So
to adjourn?
moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good night.